Have you ever felt a chill run down your spine when you're sure you're utterly alone? I was home alone one blustery, rainy night. The rain was lashing the windows and the wind was howling, creating an eerie symphony. I've always been a bit jumpy when I'm alone, but tonight something felt different. There was an unnerving vibe in the air, a chilling sense of dread that I couldn't shake. The night was dark, the only light coming from the occasional flash of lightning. I was nestled on my couch, trying to distract myself with some mindless television. The sound of the rain against the window was deafening, but through the noise I heard a knock at the door. Startled, I jumped up and cautiously approached the door. I peered through the peephole, but there was no one there. Confused, I returned to the couch, but not long after, the knocking started again. This time it was louder, more frantic. A cold sweat broke out on the back of my neck. My heart pounded in my chest. I approached the door again, my mind racing with possibilities. Each knock seemed to echo through the house, punctuating the deafening silence. I pressed my eye to the peephole once more, but again, there was no one there. Have you ever seen something in the corner of your eye, but when you turn to look, it's gone? That's how it all started for me. A flicker, a movement, a shadow that wasn't supposed to be there. It was always just out of sight, always disappearing the moment I tried to focus on it. At first I shrugged it off. Maybe it was just my eyes playing tricks on me, or perhaps I was just tired. But it kept happening over and over again. The same dark shadow darting in and out of my peripheral vision. It was always there but never really there, you know what I mean? It was like trying to remember a dream that slips away the moment you wake up. I started questioning my sanity. Was I seeing things? Was there really something there, or was it all in my head? The uncertainty was maddening, but worse was the feeling that I wasn't alone. The feeling that something was watching me, studying me. It was a fear that crept up my spine and nestled itself into my mind, refusing to leave. As the days turned into weeks, the shadow started to become more solid, more real. It was no longer just a fleeting glimpse in the corner of my eye. It was a palpable presence that I could feel like a cold breath on the back of my neck. But it never fully revealed itself. I never saw it head on, never got a good look at it. It was always just out of sight, always just beyond my grasp. The shadow was always there, lurking in the corners, always watching, always waiting. I felt like prey, hunted by an unseen predator. I was trapped in my own home, tormented by a shadow that refused to show itself. The fear was constant, the tension unbearable. The shadow was always there, lurking, waiting. I felt like prey. Have you ever heard a whisper in the silence, a voice that shouldn't be there? That's exactly what happened to me one quiet, rainy night. I was home alone, the rain gently tapping against the windows, the house creaking in the wind. I was curled up on the couch, engrossed in a book when I first heard it. A whisper so faint, so soft, it was like a breeze rustling through leaves. I brushed it off as the wind, or maybe the rain, but it persisted, a constant murmuring just beneath my ability to understand. It was always there, a soft hum in the background, like a radio left on in another room. It was just audible enough to be noticed, but not loud enough to decipher. It was a voice, I was sure of it, but where was it coming from? Who was it? And what were they saying? The voice started to seep into my every waking moment. I could hear it while washing dishes, feel it breathe down my neck while reading, sense its presence in the dead of the night. I was no longer alone in my own home. This whisper, this voice, had invaded my sanctuary. As the days turned into weeks, the voice grew louder, more insistent. It was no longer a whisper, but a constant chatter. Still unintelligible, still just beyond my comprehension. I was living in a state of perpetual unease, always on edge, always waiting for the voice to finally reveal itself. Sleep became a distant memory. Every time I closed my eyes, the whispering voice was there, echoing in the silence of the night. I could hear it in my dreams, a constant reminder of my waking nightmare. The fear that I was not alone, that someone or something was with me, was unbearable. I started to question my sanity. Was I hearing things? Was I going mad? The voice was always there, whispering, an incessant reminder of my growing paranoia. I felt like I was losing my mind. The voice was always there, whispering. I felt like I was losing my mind. Have you ever been so scared that your fear becomes a living thing? I have. It started out as this creeping sensation like a spider crawling up your spine. Then it festered, grew, became a constant companion. It was like I was never alone, even when the house was empty. You see, the terror wasn't something I could see or touch, but it hunted me nonetheless. It was there in the corner of my eye when I was making a sandwich in the kitchen. It was there when I was brushing my teeth before bed. It was always there, just out of sight, but I could feel it. My skin prickled, my heart pounded, and my breath hitched every time I felt it near. I tried to understand it, to rationalize it. I thought maybe I was just paranoid. Or maybe it was all in my head. I told myself it was the stress, the loneliness, or maybe even the rain. But deep down I knew it was something else. I started to leave the lights on when I went to bed. I even tried to invite friends over, hoping that the presence of others would drive the unseen terror away, but it didn't work. The fear was always there, a living thing, breathing down my neck, whispering in my ear, clawing at my sanity. I could feel it closing in on me like a predator stalking its prey. Every creak of the house, every flicker of the lights, every gust of wind against the window sent chills down my spine. The terror was tightening its grip, and I could feel it, like a noose around my neck. I tried to fight it, to stand up against it. I screamed into the empty house, hoping to scare it away, but it only laughed. The terror was relentless, it was patient, it was waiting, and every day, every night, it drew closer. The fear was always there, a living thing. I felt like I was being hunted. And the worst part? I couldn't see what was hunting me. I couldn't fight what I couldn't see. All I could do was wait and hope that I would survive the unseen terror. Have you ever had to face your deepest fear, alone in the dark? There I was, the chilling silence of the night broken only by the relentless rain pounding against the window. The fear had been building, a cold, creeping dread that wrapped around me as tightly as the darkness outside. I was alone, utterly alone, and something was in my house, something unseen, something terrifying. The house creaked around me, groaning like a living thing. I could hear it breathing, feel it watching me. Every shadow held a threat, every noise a promise of danger. I was a stranger in my own home, a guest in a house of horrors. It was the unseen terror, the thing that had been haunting me, taking over. It was everywhere and nowhere, a specter in the shadows. My heart pounded in my chest, a wild drumbeat echoing in the silence. My breath came in ragged gasps, each one tasting of fear. I could feel it, the terror, like a living thing inside me. It clawed at me, gnawed at me, demanding to be let out. The climax came suddenly, a moment of pure, unadulterated fear. I confronted it, the unseen terror. I shouted into the darkness, my voice shaking with terror and defiance. I was alone, but I was not going to be a victim. I was not going to let the fear control me. I stood my ground, facing the unseen terror, staring into the abyss. But the abyss stared back. The unseen terror was silent, a shadow in the darkness. It watched me, weighed me, judged me. I could feel its gaze, a cold, calculating stare that made my blood run cold. I was alone, facing my deepest fear. In the end, I was left alone, facing my deepest fear. I felt like I had stared into the abyss, stared back. The unseen terror was still there, lurking in the shadows, but I had faced it. I had confronted it, and I was still standing.